Hey guys, it's your homie Revo here, and this is gonna be one of my first mental health blogs, where it's essentially gonna be a series where, I talk about my mental health journey and give advice to people, and hopefully I get to inspire people with my stories and and push people to take those first steps into seeking out help and not feeling ashamed about their mental health diagnoses and starting their mental health journeys. So in this episode, I feel like I want to discuss my like the what led to me getting diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, or BPD for short, and just like hopefully I get to paint a picture of how heavily and how deep rooted and how deeply it affects me. Okay, so to give like a quick introductory explanation to what BPD, or borderline personality disorder, is, um, like in my explanation, I'm not gonna give like some super formal textbook explanation of the disorder and each of the nine diagnostic criteria. So I'll just speak I'm just gonna speak from my personal experience and try my best, because honestly I'm not the best at explaining things. But borderline personality disorder is a personality disorder that essentially makes it so that it's someone who has a really difficult time understanding and feeling and regulating their emotions. So imagine your emotions, right? And there's like a super meter. Like imagine you're playing like a fighting game. There's like a meter that's slowly building up. And while most people feel their emotions most people are able to regulate their emotions, and let's say if you were to abandon them, or they lose a relationship with someone they care about, of course it's gonna hurt, and then you may cry it out, but ultimately you have a strong sense of self. So you'll be able to tell yourself it's gonna be okay, and I'll be able to work through it. But people with borderline personality disorder, like people us, we essentially we struggle, truly struggle with regulating our emotions. Like every single emotion you feel, from love, sadness, emotional pain, joy, everything is it's amplified times 10. Like it sometimes it literally feels like like 10. And uh, and for me personally, I feel things so strongly to the point where everything is essentially in black and white. Like I see, the way I see myself, the way I see others, the genuine lack of sense of self, that is literally one of the diagnostic criteria. It's identity disturbance, which means someone who essentially at their core doesn't really understand themselves. But every but imagine every emotion you feel on, for example, if there's a scale of 1 through 10, you imagine every emotion that you feel on a daily basis is at a 20. Like imagine having no middle ground. So essentially, where you're either at you're either at a high, like at an emotional high, or that you're at a low, and your mood, and again, you have chronic mood swings. So your moods, so everything you do, all the plans you make with friends, your ability to even discipline yourself enough to fucking go out and live a social life, and work a 50-hour work week and everything, is heavily dependent upon your mood, because when you're constantly going shifting emotions or going through drastic mood swings on a daily basis, it's kind of hard to actually be productive and to get along with people and to have healthy relationships. And not the and one of the hallmarks of BPD is like a strong, chronic, deep rooted fear of abandonment that usually results from early onset childhood trauma. And when I say a fear of abandonment and also fear of rejection, they're pretty much synonymous in the case of borderline personality disorder. But yeah, that the fear of abandonment and issues regarding that and regarding self-esteem is wild. Like, trust me, ask anyone who deals with this disorder about the fear of abandonment, and the lengths that you're willing to go to, in order to build up these walls, in order to protect yourself, and in order to to the point where you're like doing like people pleasing behaviors, which is also known as fawning. So it's like a trauma response to where in order to keep people around you, basically people please. And we also go through a phenomenon called splitting, which is like splitting in terms of BPD. It's essentially is whenever we're feeling like a high sense of stress and in the world is just becoming too overwhelming, or whenever we get triggered, we essentially like, again, it's like black and white thinking, black and white, all or nothing drastic thinking. So we essentially see ourselves and see other people as again, it's like, I don't know if this is making sense, but yeah, you see other people as either all good or all bad, and which you can imagine how that would affect like your interpersonal relationships and make you a very difficult person to deal with, essentially, because it's hard to truly feel loved, or to make a relationship work, or to love yourself, where at your core you see you pretty much don't see people whole, and also you don't see yourself whole, essentially. And the splitting and the two hardest things for me personally is trying to get a hold over how you see, try to get a hold of your relationships in terms of splitting, because I'm constantly going back and forth between how I feel about people in terms of splitting. I was constantly splitting and seeing people as black and white, honestly, due to some deep-rooted insecurities and regarding my own self-image and whether or not people can ever truly accept me or value me, especially. And these are deep-rooted feelings, deep defense mechanisms and survival instincts that developed pretty much since childhood, because I always have that fear of rejection, that people are only really tolerate me, or never really accept me due to being a lot of it has to do with my personal identity. Being queer, being trans, definitely plays a major role in that. But there's also a lot of different social traumas that I went through and family stuff that plays into it also. So yeah, splitting is not cool, alongside the chronic sense of emptiness that I feel, because for me, it's like I know that I'm loved, and I know that I'm valued, and I know that on a logical, cognitive level, I know that there's people who really support me and want what's best for me, it's almost impossible to really feel it. It's like I know that I'm loved, but I don't really quote unquote feel loved or really feel valued, if that makes sense. Especially when I'm not actually physically there with people and physically around people. And to wrap up the video, because at the end of the video, I'm gonna be posting links, and even and pretty much just post the explanation, Google, post it from Google, just what borderline personality disorder is and the 9 different diagnostic criteria, in order for people to really fully get a grasp of the bigger picture. But what led to my initial, for me getting initially diagnosed with BPD, is because last year, at the start of 2023, I originally was recommended by my therapist. I've been seeing my same therapist for 2.5 years now, by the way. I love her. Not gonna give out names, of course, but I'm really grateful to have a really good therapist who really does care and is patient with me. But she recommended me to get an autism diagnosis, which is a whole separate topic, by the way. Because yes, I've learned that I indeed do have autism traits, autistic traits, and I also have ADHD. But again, that's a whole different topic. But I initially sought out a third party, professionals. I went to a different organization in order to see an autism specialist initially. And as a result, I'm not gonna give the full details, of course, but that's initially how I ended up getting diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which and a lot of people might think, so your active therapist who you've been working with for years technically didn't diagnose you with BPD. Well, not initially, of course, but but trust me, like even before I got my diagnosis, I was I've been talking to my active therapist about borderline personality and how I identified a lot with a lot of people's stories who did deal with it, and honestly, like it makes perfect sense because I'm definitely like it definitely explains how I feel deep down inside with with the distorted sense of self and how I view others and how I always feel like, oh, so yeah. And also my active therapist also diagnosed me with BPD afterwards too, because we've been making a lot of progress throughout this last year, like really last 15 months, really breaking down like my trauma and behaviors. And but yes, but I've identified like really since I started my mental health journey back in 2021 before getting diagnosed that I heavily resonated with the traits of the disorder. So, and I make this video because like borderline personality disorder is also a disorder that's heavily stigmatized, due to like honestly a lot of people have really inverse like negative experiences with us, and due to the nature, the intensity of the disorder, especially with alongside with the high risk of suicide, because unfortunately borderline personality disorder statistically I think it's statistically known to have a high suicide attempt rate, as around 70% of all people diagnosed with the disorder attempt suicide at least once. So, well, that's one of the main, and I'm also a suicide attemptee. So yes, I fit that. I fit that statistic. So I feel like it's important for me share my experiences and let people know that yes, like it's not hopeless. BPD also statistically has a 90% remission rate. Most borderline people with this disorder end up achieving remission within 5 to 10 years of therapy. So it has a really good prognosis. So there is hope. And and for now that's pretty much the gist of it. And trust me, and this is only the first, or honestly, I might make this in my second my second blog in mental health entry, because I already have I have one other mental health blog, journal entry that I plan on uploading too, but I may upload this one first. So for this to be completely accurate, I don't know if I'm gonna make this my first or second upload on the topic. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. To anyone who made it this far, I appreciate it, and I love you all. Like I love all my supporters, and we'll get through this one day at a time. Thank you. Bye.